Hello, photo class. So this is the video for your last assignment for class. And the last assignment focuses on learning how to use selection tools. And so you're going to use that to make one single photograph that's composed of at least 3 other photographs. So in other words, you're going to be taking parts of at least 3 photographs you've taken and combining them into one image. What are selection tools? You may have used these a little bit already, but they're basically tools that allow you to select out parts of an image. By drawing around it. There's a huge variety of ways of doing this. It's one of the things that it feels like there's a million different ways to select things out in Photoshop. So this time around, I'm not going to do a video where I show you how to use the tools. This video is going to be to show you some inspiring examples by former students and also, by professional artists. The link down there, I'll put the link below the video so it'll be clickable. It won't be clickable directly on screen. I don't really know how to use YouTube well enough to do that. But anyway, I have the link available to you and I'll also email it. Adobe has a really good set of videos on everything to do with Photoshop, but also in particular their videos on selection tools are really good. There's 3 really pretty short ones that are good, and there's additional video I'll send you to that's a more complex way to select complex things out. Like if you're trying to select the sky out of an image that has a tree in it and there's just all this intricate stuff to try to select. There's some really cool ways using like Channel Mixer and all these weird things that you can learn with that. But anyway, I'll send you videos on that. So there's a lot of different ways to do selections, and just on the screen now, just showing a few of the basic selection tools, including if you go into the select menu in Photoshop, there's some interesting ones like selecting by color range, which allows you to use a color dropper to pick a color area you want to select out. So if you had a yellow wall in a photo, in the background of a photo, and you want to change it to red, you could click using color range in selection, and that would allow you to select out. Or even focus areas, so the areas that are most in focus will be, so if you've got a photo that's got good shallow depth of field in terms of the background's out of focus and the foreground's really sharp, that works really well too. So there's a number of ways of doing it. But be sure and watch the videos that I send you on this, because they'll be really good at teaching you that. This is a student example by a student named Ashley Redmond from a few years ago. And so when you use selection tools, you can get it down. Basically, the checkerboard's there in the background. That just means it's transparent. So the checkerboard is basically just, as you erase away, you see that checkerboard image if you don't have another layer underneath. Anyway, so she took a photograph of one of her friends and cut out from around it, and then took a photograph of a jar with ink in it. Dropped some ink in it to get that really dramatic effect. Took a separate photo of the jar before the ink and just splashed water in it, and then added the girl in using layers, and then added the whole thing together so that she ended up with this really beautiful, kind of intriguing, strange photograph. Oftentimes when people do composite photography, surrealism is a good inspiration, because the surrealists like Salvador Dali, they throw things together that don't necessarily go together, and then distort and reshape them. All things that are pretty easy to do in Photoshop. Just for fun, here's a photo, my favorite photo of Salvador Dali. Other artists like Max Ernst use collage. So this is just collage from catalogs. This is probably from the 1920s or 30s, this image. And it's collaged images cut out of magazines and put together in this very surreal fashion. It's like a dreamlike imagery effect. René Magritte's one of the most famous of the surrealists. And so surrealism typically combines bizarre imagery for symbolic purposes. And this René Magritte image is one of my favorite paintings. And something like this would be pretty easy to do in Photoshop, actually, using blend modes and and so forth. Juxtapositions of scale, sort of things that are shockingly big, can lead to that sort of sense of confusion that surrealism gives you. This isn't necessarily a project about surrealism, though. I'm just showing you these images because they typically are kind of good inspiration for these composite image assignments. You could actually do something completely different with your composite images that don't hit you over the head with bizarreness. Leonora Carrington's another good surrealist to look at too. And Man Ray was a painter as well as a photographer, and so this is just a really simple image where he sort of noticed the woman's body looked like a violin and just put the symbols on there. Really simple juxtaposition there. Jerry Uelsmann, he's one of the most famous photographers who did something like Photoshop work. and surrealism before there really was Photoshop. So these are darkroom images. He had several enlargers in his darkroom, and he would have a different negative in each enlarger and do like dodging and burning. Dodge and burn are Photoshop tools, but they're also darkroom techniques. Anyway, to make these images. He was actually one of the professors at the University of Florida where I went to school. I didn't get to take a class with him, but I got to meet him and talk to him a few times. And here's another one of his photos. So you can see it'd be pretty easy to do these. You might look up Jerry Uelsmann to get some more ideas. And Maggie Taylor, when I was at the University of Florida, the two of them were actually married, and Maggie Taylor actually did a really nice workshop that I was able to attend on Photoshop. And she uses like old photographs she finds in antique stores and junk stores and scans them in and then makes these collages out of them. So it's a really beautiful photograph though. But yeah, Maggie Taylor's a really good inspiration to look at. Matt Mahurin's another really good one. He's an illustrator and filmmaker. I just love this image. And you can see the last assignment I gave you on blending modes, how he's using a blending mode here with the sky and the skin texture, and then working with the flames to create that beautiful crown. Yeah, another Matt Mahurin image. One of my favorite musicians, Tom Waits. His music's awesome. But yeah, Photoshop allows you to do really beautiful collage, strange collage stuff here. And this is some student work I'm going to show you now. This is Allison Frazier. She's probably one of the most talented photo students I've ever had at this college. She's a real go-getter. That's a photo of one of her friends, Joe Florio. I've got one of his pieces I'm going to show you in just a few minutes. But yeah, that's a photo of Joe. And then these are some more Monmouth students that she photographed. Yeah, she made some great work. All right, this is Joe Florio. You saw the picture of him with a ribbon coming out of his mouth a minute ago. And so this image was taken of one of his friends at the train tracks. Actually, he's not really standing on the train tracks. That gets photoshopped in later. But what the original photo of the man is one of those light trace photos where we use a pen light and draw around someone. And so he took that photograph and then used selection tools to then remove the background completely and remove the chest and everything so that he could make him almost like he's a what do you call it when a robot's combined with a human, Terminator style figure. But I thought I'd show you the layers. I'm just going to turn on a few layers at a time and show you. So here's you can see a little bit of stuff showing up through the arms, and if I do another one, you can see what's happening underneath where the legs were, and then adding some tools to the chest, and continuing to add more layers for texture. I took away the figure on top so you can see what's been added so far. So there's pictures of rust from a tractor and then a bunch of other sort of tractor parts. And so yeah, sort of pull that back so you can see it's actually basically made out of a whole bunch of different parts that he photographed. And then putting everything back together and adding the train tracks in. There's this gear that he's put up in the sky with a transparency layer on it, and then with the sky behind it. So that's really sophisticated uses of layering and using the selection tools to erase out what you don't need, and using some blending modes as well. This is Brennan Probst. He was another really good photographer. He actually went to grad school for photography and is teaching somewhere outside Chicago now, a photo class. So this was his girlfriend at the time. I think they may be married now. And she lived in an apartment in Galesburg. She was a Knox student. This was the basement of the apartment. And basically he did this photo by putting the camera on a tripod and then taking a whole bunch of photographs of her in different places without letting the camera move. And so he took a ton of these photos, and then using, if you look over with the blending modes, where it says blending mode, it says darken. You can see just using the darken blending mode, you can add the repeat pictures of her into the scene, and you can see the shadow of the chair showing up in her face, so you'd have to go in and erase some areas out and get a little bit more careful with it. But yeah, that's pretty much how that was created. So anyway, so basically this is a project to help you to learn selection tools. And again, you just do one image, but you have to make it out of at least 3 photographs by selecting out parts of photographs and putting them together. I would recommend doing something like you might start with a sketchbook and just sketch out some ideas for what you want to make and then figure out what photos to take. Or maybe you just look through some of the photos you already have and take a few more photos and then figure out sort of spontaneously how to combine them and just be creative on the fly. So some people work better when they sort of plan ahead and figure out what they want to do. And I teach contemporary art, so I teach a whole lesson on surrealism where I really get into surrealist stuff. So if you want to talk to me one-on-one using Zoom, I can show you some slides from my contemporary art class on surrealism. I can talk to you more about how surrealists got ideas. Surrealists would use things like the exquisite corpse game, where it's kind of this cool thing where you fold a piece of paper 3 times and you take turns drawing on a part of it, parts of a body, and then it's too complicated to explain over a YouTube video. But anyway, it's a way of spontaneously generating images that can surprise you. So they're called automatism techniques. That's pretty much it. You don't have to do something that looks like a surrealist did it, though. You can do something, whatever you're inspired to do with this project. It could be you want to take a photo of someone and then just put a completely different sky in or something, so it looks like a real photograph, but, you've enhanced it by taking things away and adding things. Anyway, that's the end of the video. I'll send you an email with some links in it. So thanks. Bye.